This hour, after 10 months of uninterrupted electricity supply, Eskom has issued an alert indicating a high risk of up to stage 4 load shedding for this weekend. The utility has attributed this to several breakdowns in generation units in the past week. Eskom says it will use all of its emergency reserves, which will now need to be replenished. The entity is adamant that it's only a temporary setback, however. Electricity Minister Dr. Newzroom will provide a status update later this afternoon. Latest on this, head of Energy Secretariat at the South African National Energy Development Institute, joining us then now as we get just a few more words with regards to this. Prof, thank you so much for the time. Appreciated here on Newzroom Afrika. What do you make of this then? We've just had a situation in which Eskom was only given a 12.7% increase in tariff hikes that will kick off in April, as opposed to the 36 they wanted. And then word of stage 4 load shedding, should I say then, for this weekend possibly happening. Are the two linked, or is this just, conjuring up a sense of trying to understand the situation?
Good afternoon to you, or good morning to you and the viewers. The two are not linked. I'm actually shocked that Eskom has issued that statement. The statement did not go into the details of which actual units are affected. I heard they said in Parliament that it's 3 units that have tripped. Looking at their summer outlook that they released for 1 September 2024 to 31 March 2025, this was never envisaged in that particular summer outlook. So I think something drastic happened with those units that have tripped, and they indicated now that they have used up all their reserves, and they need to replenish those reserves. So for me, it's quite a shocking kind of a situation. I've also requested further information from Eskom so that I can understand it better.
Yeah, and I mean, part of the wording in the statement is that load shedding is still a thing of the past. But if you still have risks like this on it, surely then it isn't.
Yeah, so from their outlook, we were not supposed to have stage 4 load shedding. That's a very high stage of load shedding. So that risk, we always knew that there was a risk of load shedding should something happen, especially on the breakdown side of things. But we never expected it to go up to stage 4 load shedding, maybe a stage 1, stage 2 load shedding. But their own projections were not very accurate because in their own projections, between now and 31st of March 2025, we were not even supposed to have load shedding.
Yeah.
And unless something extraordinary happened, which they are now communicating to the public.
So, Prof, did we overestimate the capabilities and where we were exactly with regards to electricity generation?
So looking at the generation recovery plan and the projections where we're sitting at about just about 60% energy availability factor on the coal fleet, and the projections, even the ones that are in the IRP, they were showing that we will go on the positive side, moving to 63-64%. Energy availability factor. What this statement says now is that the energy availability factor has collapsed, and it has collapsed drastically to an extent that we need to now implement stage 4 load shedding while replenishing the reserves. So yeah, we were optimistic, some of us, looking at the performance for almost a year without load shedding, and also the numbers that were looking very good in terms of the projections on the performance of the coal fleet going forward. But this is something else that I think Eskom needs to explain, and I know Minister will then come in and give us details on what exactly happened and what is the plan going forward.
Your assessment, your expectation here, the risk is of stage 4 load shedding. you don't make an announcement like this unless you're certainly in dire straits. Do you take it that there's perhaps a 90% chance of actual load shedding? What is your assessment?
Yeah, I would say there's a 90% chance of load shedding, or even 95% chance of load shedding, because Eskom has issued a statement, a warning, to say it might happen. And looking at the fact that they're talking about 3 units that have tripped, and the fact that they've used up all the reserves, there's no other option. And we were still sitting at very high breakdowns there.
Yeah.
Last year, we were sitting at about 11,000 megawatts in terms of breakdowns. So if we have 3 more units on breakdowns, plus there's no generation reserves, then chances are very, very high that that load shedding will happen. I'm not very sure about the stage 4 part.
Sure.
That's the one that why I asked Eskom to send me some more details on the number of megawatts involved and things like that, so that I can do that assessment.
When we talk about replenishment, how long does that take? How long does the recovery process look like then as well, in order to get back to some sense of normality without load shedding?
So the generation, the recovery of the replenishment of your reserves can take anything between 24 and 36 months, 36 hours, not months, and that depends on the availability of the electricity. For instance, part of that reserve is to do pumped storage. We have the pumped storage facilities, which basically means that when they implement load shedding on Sunday, as envisaged, during the entire Sunday, they will then be pumping the water up the pump storage, and then that will then assist them in replenishing the reserves. But there's also the replenishing of the diesel reserves, because diesel is also classified as a reserves on the side of Eskom. That doesn't take long because it's a matter of getting the diesel to the open cycle gas turbines, and that can be done within a day as well.
Yeah, the state of Eskom, what is that like right now? I mean, yes, fine, we can get the exact numbers with regards to them not necessarily making a profit as yet, etc. But are they able to do this without further help and further assistance from government? Are they now, let's call them a fully functioning, on their own entity?
The Eskom, they still need a lot of help. There are a lot of positive signs. I'm very much worried about the fact that they got only 12% increase in their tariff when they asked for about 36%. I would have expected something in the region of 18% or so. That deficit is going to damper their financials quite heavily, which basically means that they will have to rely on shareholder equity injection, or basically what we call government bailouts. Government has already given them about 256 billion to service their debt. That they've drawn on some of that money. If you look at their financial statements, they haven't received all of that money because it's coming in tranches, so that they can service their debt. They are not yet at a situation where they can go into the international markets and borrow money at very low interest rates. They are still a very high risk when it comes to borrowing of money, and government has indicated that they are not even allowed to borrow. As things stand, they need to first get their books, their financial books stabilized. So we are in a very, we were moving towards the right direction, in my view. A lot of work was done through the leadership of the current Minister of Energy and Electricity as well. Where we are now with this kind of a small setback, I will watch it closely. We just need to see whether this will go beyond Sunday, because they're basically saying that There are units that they were supposed to have returned to service that have now been delayed in terms of returning to service. We know that there were other units that they were expecting to come back live, more than 3,000 megawatts as of December last year. I will have to check on that to say what's happening on that, because that will also help Eskom a lot going forward.
Yeah, Professor Mamphweli, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, as you said, a 90 to 95% chance, indeed, of that load shedding, indeed, happening this weekend, according to Professor Sampson Mamphweli, who's the head of the Department of Science, Technology and Innovations at the Energy Secretariat at SANEDI, then joining us there as well. So interesting developments. Let's see what happens. Let's move on.